Welcome to a very special tribute to James Michael Parker.
Almost everyone knew him as Jim, and he lost his life in a tragic accident.
For over 23 years, Jim Parker helped grow one of America's leading manufacturers. And I'm talking about Steves & Sons, right here in San Antonio, Texas.
Through his dedication and leadership, he helped create hundreds of jobs and touch thousands of lives.
On behalf of Mission Park, we'd like to extend our deepest condolences to the Parker family and the entire Steves organization.
Now, let's celebrate the life of this unforgettable man, Jim Parker.
The year was 1954, and all around the world, history was being made. On a tiny island in the South Pacific, the first hydrogen bomb lit up the sky. In Oxford, England, Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile.
Roger Bannister had achieved a new peak in the history of sport.
In New York City, Swanson Foods unveiled the world's first TV dinner.
My wife uses Swanson TV turkey dinners, and make your husband lucky too.
Meanwhile, an unknown singer from Memphis, Tennessee, performed his first hit single.
Why, that's all right, Mama. That's all right with you.
And 500 miles away in San Antonio, Texas, James Michael Parker arrived on the scene. Over the years, Jimmy would be many things to many people. In his childhood, his brothers knew him as a productive menace. To his fellow soldiers, he was an airborne ranger. To the woman of his dreams, his wife Cindy, he was a loving husband. To his 3 daughters, who are his greatest joy, and to his grandson Jackson, he was a world-class father and grandfather. And to his friends and colleagues and everyone at Steves & Sons, he was simply the cowboy.
I'm reminded when we were on this very same street 23 years ago, Jim came with the company 1 month before our father passed away. And our mother taught me then something that I'm trying to channel today, and that is to celebrate the life and to know that Jim is in a wonderful spot.
He's been a remarkable part of our family, and he's been a remarkable part of this company. When you look behind me and you look off to the left and you look to the right, this is stuff that Jim did, and you all have been a part of this as much as we have, if not more.
Jim was a loving husband and father to his girls, and I know that he meant so much to every single one of us, and I know that all of us are going to be able to get through this together.
Thank you, Lord, for the example that was Jim. Thank you for his strength. Thank you for his capabilities. Thank you for all the love he shared with us. Thank you for sharing his light in our lives.
Here's a loving tribute to the unforgettable life and legacy of Jim Parker.
There's no better tribute that a loved one can receive than the love and admiration of their children.
Now here's some special words from Casey, Corleanne, and Sarah about their hero, their father, Jim Parker.
If my dad were here today, he'd tell me, "You got this, Casey girl. You're a Parker." So, these three guys walk into a bar. Kidding, Mom. Mom's giving me the look. I just had to bring a little bit of laughter. Dear Dad, thank you for always believing in me and pushing me when I didn't think I could push myself. Thank you for always showing me how laughter can brighten someone's day. Thank you for teaching me how to be strong and independent, how to love fiercely and admit when I'm wrong, how to take pride in everything I do and not half-ass anything. I've always looked up to you. Thank you for all of those talks I called lectures when I was younger. I've found more relevance in them as I grow older, and they've turned into life lessons, which I find myself passing on to Jackson. Thank you for always having confidence in me and showing me how to be brave. You once wrote in a letter to me, "If you're not falling down, you're not learning anything new." And that each day is a new day and a fresh start. Thank you for always lifting me up with your words of encouragement and wisdom when I needed it most. For helping me understand the world in a practical way. Don't be scared, just be aware, you'd always say. Thank you for showing me how family takes care of each other. Most of all, thank you for choosing to be my dad. You will always be my hero. I love you with all my heart, and I will miss you every single day. Love your Casey girl.
He cheered me on every single step nonetheless. No matter what, he was so proud of all of us. The drawing line was always the question of, "Are you happy?" It's all Dad ever needed from us. Recently, I moved from living 100 yards away from my parents to living 4 hours away. And of course, my dad helped me in every way he could. I remember when I was driving down to Galveston, I got a call from my landlord saying, "Miss Parker, there's a man in a big blue truck here in our parking lot, and he's unloading things. We just need to confirm that he says he's your father." It was 2 p.m. I wasn't even allowed to move until 4. Dad had beat me there. I was still in San Antonio. And I remember laughing and saying, "Yep, that's my dad." And I still find myself saying that. Every picture I've seen, every note I find, every story I hear. Yep, that's my dad. Because what else is there to say? My dad made the most out of every single minute of every moment of life. He loved my mother and us and life in general so fiercely. My mom has told me that my sisters and I are part of a very special club. We are direct products of Jim Parker. I am Jim Parker's daughter. We are Jim Parker's daughters. And we will carry his legacy as best we can, doing everything the Parker way, with a lot of strength and tenacity, a little bit of grace and humor, and a big smile or joke to wrap it up. Dad, you always were and always will be larger than life. We will do our best to continue making you proud. I love you, Dad. Always have, always will.
My name is Sarah, Jim's youngest daughter, and as I've been told my entire life, his look-alike, minus the mustache. I never thought I'd be standing here. All my life, I really thought my dad was invincible, and you probably did too. If you knew Jim Parker, you were loved and you were better because of it. He changed everyone's life for the better, but most importantly, he changed my life for the better because, like it's been said, he wasn't just the infamous Jim Parker or whatever other name he was known by. He was my dad, and he was the best dad. Not in a cliche way that people say when bad things happen, but like truly a dad that I cannot imagine being better. He was my biggest fan, always rooting for me in any area of life, always by my side, always affectionate, and always telling me how much he loved me, commenting on every Facebook post, calling me out of the blue, or just actually showing up wherever I was, unannounced, of course. There was never a doubt in my mind what my dad thought of me, the world. He was my loudest supporter. Whatever I was invested in, he was too. Whatever I was about, he was about. Even if that meant learning cheerleading and gymnastics over softball and volleyball, or keeping every rock and trinket I gave him in his jean pockets for 20 years. I am who I am because of my better than good dad. He never stopped telling people or me how proud he was to be my dad, how much he loved me, not only with words, but with actual actions that matched the enthusiasm. Now, I don't think I'll ever be able to stop telling people how proud I was to be his daughter, how lucky I was to be loved by him, how he was just better than good. I'm not really sure what to do without my dad or how to navigate life without him, but I know what my dad would do. He would give me a death squeeze hug, crack a joke, and tell me I'm his tough Sarah girl who will be okay. I know with whatever comes ahead and any depth of grief that we'll go through, I'll have his unmistakable voice booming in the back of my head telling me, I love you, you're a Parker. And that statement alone has and can get me and us through anything.
Now let's take a few moments to see young Jim growing up to meet the woman of his dreams.
Just a few days ago, Steves and Sons celebrated the life of Jim Parker in one of the factories that he built right here in San Antonio.
Here's how they honored Jim and his wife, Cindy.
It was very important to our father to recognize folks' service to the company. So Edward and I are sporting these Steves service pins. There might be some others in the room that should have a pin if you've been with the company for more than 23 years.
So Cindy, we were about to give Jim his service pin this Christmas, and we think this is a perfect time to give it to him through you. So if you could come up and let us give you his service pin. Sam and I also want to thank all of the customers and vendors and all the associates that came from a long way away to come celebrate the life of Jim Parker. And we're going to be celebrating it for some time to come.
What we really want to do is see if we can chronicle some of the things that Jim would say to us regularly, And I definitely got to hear the 7 Ps from you all today, and it happens to be true. And there's just a bunch more of them.
This sort of fits into something we were saying earlier about our father. And as we were building a building, the engineer would say, you need a 6-inch slab and you need this much rebar. And after the engineer left, my father would say, if he says it needs 6, you only need 4 inches of concrete. And with Jim, it was exactly the opposite, that if the engineer said you needed 6, we needed 8, and we put 8 in.
We're going to celebrate Jim's life for the rest of our lives, and just love that man. So thank you all again for coming, and thanks to everyone on our team that turned this into the space that it is right now. It's really pretty spectacular. I know Jim's loving it.
Now let's take a few minutes to see how love can create memories that last for a lifetime.
Dick, you had a chance to speak with the Steves family about Jim. What did they tell you?
Well, as you know, the Steves can speak for themselves right now. All right, now I'm here with my dear friend Trey Steves, and he used to call me Uncle Dick, not anymore. I call him, he's my mentor now. But Trey, so I want you to tell me a little bit about the man you knew as Big Jim Parker. Tell me a little bit about him, buddy.
How much time have you got on that tape?
Well, when Jim had come to work here in San Antonio, our plant was pretty much antiquated. He updated most of the equipment.
Sometimes it's sort of hard to modernize if you don't know what you're doing, and Jim did.
From that time to this, we were manufacturing, I think, maybe 6,000 doors a day. Now we're manufacturing almost 50,000 doors a day. So he's done a great job. in 4 different manufacturing plants.
He knew something about everything, and he truly did. Not one of those folks that pretended like they did. He actually had a phenomenal skill set.
Tell me a little bit about the creativity side of Jim Parker, if you don't mind.
Oh man, I'll tell you a couple stories. So I'm getting married and we're having this big wedding, and I wanted to have a DJ booth built into a bar, and I wanted it all made out of doors, so it all looked like doors, and I wanted, you know, this elevated DJ booth so he'd be up in the air, but it'd be all look like he's held up by doors. And I just told Jim this crazy idea, and he said, "You got it, I'll make it." And next thing you know, at the St. Anthony Hotel, he says, "I'm gonna need 2 days to load this thing in there." And it probably weighed, you know, 10,000 pounds, and it was all painted gold, and it was the most unbelievable thing you ever saw. And yeah, that was Jim Parker. You come up with the idea and you get it.
But the best part about him, by far, the best part about him is he made it all fun. And he was a man blessed with 30 hours in a day, and he used every one of them.
And let me bring in another Edward, if you don't mind. Edward, how are you, buddy?
Good.
Good to see you here. What do you think Jim Parker's impact?
This is my grandson.
This is your grandson, Edward Dilley, right? Edward Steves Dilley.
Edward Steves Dilley.
Edward Galt Steves Dilley.
Edward Galt Steves Dilley. I like the way he says that.
What was he going to do for you? Was there was something he was going to teach you?
He was going to help me make my first door.
Oh my, your first door. Well, Edward, back to you on that same question. So the impact of Jim on Edward here.
Well, it's more than just this, Edward. It's all the members of my family, my generation and the new generation coming in.
Jim was like a big brother. He was like a mentor. Wasn't like a mentor, was a mentor. You know, my children called him Papa Jim. He was my rooster every morning. He'd wake me up every morning. Doesn't matter, Saturday, Sunday. If he knew I had a big night the night before, I think he rolled his clock back and made sure to call me even earlier.
There's some folks here at this reception that came in from all over the country that loved Jim, and they would actually invite Jim, you know, these would be customers of ours, they would invite Jim to come to their facility to give them some pointers. And the reason I know it was a good idea on Jim's part, and mostly on their part, was he was invited back. And he did it again and again. He actually knew a lot of what their business was, not even having been in it. So he's a fantastic, he's a gift.
Tell me about this tomato and Jim. If you look at all the tables, you've got tomatoes everywhere.
Yeah, so Jim would almost embarrass you the first time he did it, but then when you got used to it, he'd do it everywhere you went. He'd go to a restaurant, he'd say, "I need a plate full of cut tomatoes."
I've been told that
that it reminds you of Jim whenever you take one.
Why?
Because he loves tomatoes. He would just eat them like.
He'd eat them like this, I think.
Yeah, but I'll just eat it like this.
Nothing like a good tomato. Well, anyway, it was something that was very important to him because all your team members were telling me, they said, "I hope you have a tomato here because that would be Jim Parker."
He said that his health, he attributed his health to raw tomatoes, salmon, and blueberries. But I will tell you, I had a ribeye with him a time or two.
Well, the Parkers are family to me as well. So I thank you and Kristin for everything you did. It was a marvelous tribute, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you for what you do and for the Parker family.
Now, let's celebrate the final chapters of Jim's wonderful life.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Mission Park Cares as we celebrated the life of Jim Parker.
We'll look forward to seeing you next time, and always remember, we love you.
And at Mission Park, it's our mission to care.